There's a reason nothing has replaced the perfection of Breaking Bad. It's not the anti-hero. It's not the violence. It's the discipline. Since this series was completed, many have tried to copy the darkness, but have completely missed the honesty. They chased shock value, but ran from consequences. Breaking Bad built its legacy on a single, uncomfortable truth. Walter White didn't become a monster. He was just finally allowed to be one. And that truth is why it still ruins other shows. So if Walter was never trapped, why did so many of us need to believe he was? The story we all agreed to tell ourselves about Walter White is a lie. A comforting, convenient lie. It goes like this. A good man, a mild-mannered chemistry teacher, is crushed by the weight of the world. He's cornered by cancer, by debt, by a system designed to let him fail. He is forced into a life of crime. This narrative is popular because it's a classic tragedy. It makes Walter a victim of circumstance, a man pushed too far, and it serves a very specific function. It absolves him. If Walter White is just a victim, then his choices aren't truly his own, and if he isn't responsible, then we, the audience, aren't responsible for rooting for him. It's a neat little package of moral get-out-of-jail-free cards, and it allows us to watch the show without feeling implicated. But it's a fiction. Breaking Bad was never that simple, and it was never that kind. The show is far more honest, and far more brutal than that popular reading allows. Walter White wasn't trapped by fate. He was waiting for an excuse. And the proof isn't buried in Season 5. It's right there in the first hour. The show told us exactly who he was from the very beginning. The pilot episode of Breaking Bad is one of the most disciplined, surgically precise hours of television ever produced. Because it's more than just a beginning, it's a statement of intent. Every single frame is evidence for the show's real thesis. The cancer diagnosis isn't the cause of Walter's break. It's the activation of a moral ticking clock. It gives him a perceived deadline, and with it, a justification for the choices he was already desperate to make. Think about the structure. When Elliot Schwartz, his wealthy former partner, offers him a high-paying job at Grey Matter, what does Walter do? He refuses. This isn't just a plot point, it's an exit. A clear, well-lit, financially sound off-ramp from the path he's about to take. But Walter's pride won't allow it. He would rather become a criminal than accept what he feels is charity from a man who stole his life's work. The choice is not between crime and death. It's between crime and humility, and he chooses crime. Later, when Crazy 8 is chained in Jesse's basement, Walter spends days agonizing over what to do. He even writes a list of reasons to let him go. The show gives him every opportunity to stop, to reverse course, to walk away. The pilot doesn't ask the audience, what will happen next? It asks a much more unsettling question. How far will a man go once he decides the world owes him something? The flying pants, the desert landscape, the RV, these aren't just memorable images, they are thesis statements, proving that Walter's cage was never made of circumstance, it was made of pride, and cancer just handed him the key. This is why Walter White is the most honest villain ever written. He doesn't become evil, he becomes honest. Honest about what he wants, honest about his own boundless pride.
Say my name.
For 50 years, Walter lived a life dictated by a social contract he secretly despised. He was the mild-mannered teacher, the underachiever, the man who swallowed his resentment and accepted his lot. Cancer didn't break that contract. It voided it. It liberated him from the obligation to pretend anymore. Suddenly, the consequences that kept his ego in check were gone, replaced by a singular, powerful excuse for his every action. And what did he use that excuse for? Not just to make money, but to finally indulge his true addiction, pride. The need to be recognized, the need to be the smartest man in the room, the need to be feared. His claim that he did it all for his family is the ultimate justification, the shield he uses to protect his own ego from the truth. What makes Walter White so unsettling isn't that he's an unrelatable monster, it's that his internal logic is seductive. His resentment feels earned. His wounded pride feels familiar. And it hits us so hard because we recognize that same impulse in ourselves. the deep-seated desire to justify our own lives, to reframe our own story with us as the hero. We understand, on a primal level, why he keeps going. But an ego that large casts a very long shadow. And for every step Walter took toward becoming his true self, someone else had to pay the price. To understand the true cost of Walter's pride, you have to look at Jesse Pinkman. If Walter represents the liberation of a monstrous ego, Jesse is the bill that comes due. He is the show's moral receipt, a living, breathing tally of the damage left in Walter's wake. Jesse feels guilt, and because he feels guilt, he suffers, over and over again. The show punishes him not simply for his crimes, but for his humanity. He feels the weight of every life destroyed, every line crossed, in a way Walter never truly does. In the world of Breaking Bad, empathy isn't a virtue, it's a tax, paid in blood. This brutal dynamic is central to the show's real argument. It's the consequence that gives Walter's choices their horrifying weight. And the show's genius lies not just in writing this dynamic, but in forcing us to see it. It never lets us look away. But the show's argument isn't just made with words. Its perfection is forged in a brutal visual discipline, a language of restraint that most television is too scared to even attempt. In an era of shaky cam and frantic editing, the show's direction is defined by its stillness. Color theory isn't just decoration, it's a psychological barometer, tracking the decay of every character's soul. But where the show's honesty becomes truly radical is in its framing. The camera rarely tells you how to feel, it simply observes. It holds on a shot long after another show would have cut away, forcing the audience to sit in the uncomfortable silence of the aftermath. Violence is often framed as a consequence, not a spectacle. We see the moments before and the horrifying results after, but the act itself is frequently hidden, leaving our own imagination to fill the gap. This visual restraint is the ultimate expression of the show's core theme. The camera is as unflinching and honest as Walter himself eventually becomes. It refuses to offer easy emotional cues or a convenient escape. This cold, observational style creates a world of intense realism, which makes the moments of pure, baffling absurdity even more effective. For all its darkness, Breaking Bad understands the value of absurdity. The humor isn't there to soften the story, it's there to sharpen it. Think of the pizza on the roof. It's not a moment of badass defiance. It's a moment of pathetic, impotent rage, so ridiculous that it becomes comedy. Think of Saul Goodman's Legal Circus, a whirlwind of sleaze and bad commercials that stands in stark contrast to Walter's self-serious criminal ambitions. You laugh, and then you realize what you just laughed at. The comedy constantly disarms the audience, making the eventual gut punch of tragedy hit that much harder. It also serves to expose the lie at the heart of Walter's ego. He sees himself as a calculating mastermind, an emperor in the making, but the reality of his enterprise is often just chaos, incompetence, and farce. The humor is the gap between Walter's self-perception and the absurd reality of his situation. But the laughter has to stop somewhere, and when it does, the show is left with only one thing to do: finish its argument. Breaking Bad's ending works because it refuses to flinch. After 5 seasons of escalating self-deception, the show offers no easy way out. There is no redemption tour, no last-minute forgiveness arc, no moral reset button. Think about his final exile in New Hampshire. Stripped of his empire, his name, and his audience, he is completely invisible. For a man whose entire journey was a desperate grasp for recognition, this was a fate worse than death. He could have faded away into nothing. Instead, he chose to return, not just for revenge, but to reclaim his identity on his own terms. This is the context for his final, brutal moment of honesty. When Walter finally admits to Skyler, "I did it for me. I liked it. I was good at it." It's not a confession seeking absolution. It's a statement of fact from a man who no longer needs to lie to himself or anyone else. The show doesn't ask you to forgive him. It doesn't even ask you to admire him. It simply finishes its argument. This is who he was all along. This is what it cost. And this is where it ends. In a television landscape obsessed with resolving discomfort, with making its anti-heroes palatable, Breaking Bad's greatest legacy is its commitment to the truth of its own creation. It hated excuses, it respected consequences, and it trusted the audience to sit with the profound discomfort of who its main character truly was. That is the secret to its power. And it's a secret modern television seems to have forgotten.